What's up guys, Chris VA Travels down here in Dinwiddie County, a little southwest of Petersburg at Pamplin Park, and going to visit Tudor Hall Plantation, historic home that sits on the Petersburg battlefield. Yeah, so I'm gonna grab my ticket and check this place out. Oh, pretty cool. They've got music that kicked in, but I'm just here to see Tudor Hall today. This place has a lot to offer. I'm actually feeling a little under the weather, and it's been kind of rainy today. So yeah, I'm just gonna visit Tudor Hall and then come back at another time and check out the rest of the museum. So, oh yeah, they've got the Banks house down here also. Cool. All right, let me go in and check this place out. Okay guys, checked in. I just did a quick walkthrough through the museum. Wow, great. Definitely well worth checking out. But like I say, I'm here today to visit Tudor Hall, and it's supposed to be, actually I think I can see it, or at least I can see one of the dependencies. And luckily it has stopped raining. All right, like I say, a lot to see. Here's the map again. Here we are, leaving the Museum of the Civil War Soldier, and right here we go. And there's also the Hart Farm to check out. You don't go inside of the building. And then there's also the Banks house. You can't go inside, but yeah, like I say, a lot to see. Tudor Hall Plantation reflects the lifestyle of an upper middle class farm family during the years of the Civil War. The big house was built in 1812. And it expanded in the 1850s. All right, so walk over this bridge. Some red Sprite, huh? Some Winterberry. Oh, and also, yeah, they give you this little audio guide. All right, so back here, some river birch. Oh, all right. Bark sheds. Pretty marshy area. I guess it'd give you an idea of the terrain during the battle. So it looks like there's a lot of dependencies. I see a corn crib, and I can tell you the only thing original is the big house. Everything else is a reconstruction to look as it did in 1864, 1865. All right, so the plantation landscape. It says you are standing in the middle of what was once a large and successful tobacco plantation. All right, so maybe that's the tobacco barn right there where they did the curing. All right, so chimney. And, okay, and the Boisseaus lived here. They're French Huguenots. I was wondering about that name. It's pronounced Boisseau. And this also became the headquarters of General Samuel McGowan, his South Carolina brigade, headquartered here. And there's that famous picture right there. Oh, all right, yeah. A lot of buildings. So let me make my way to the big house. The big house, and this must be a picture from the Civil War, or maybe just after. Yeah, a bunch of large brick chimneys. There it is. That's a huge chimney right there. Old barn falling apart. Enslaved woman with her mistress. And domestic slaves had it better, better clothing, better food. The downside, it says that they were on call 24/7 working in the big house. All right, here we go, guys. Big cedar out front. And Tudor Hall Plantation, again, built 1812 by William Boisseau. And he actually acquired this land 1810. and then it was passed on to his son Joseph, who made the upgrades in the 1850s. So yeah, just a clapboard home, pretty standard. And I guess you would call this kind of a middling, kind of middle-sized plantation home. And cool, looks like an English basement. And let me take a look at this plaque. Yeah, it was originally just your 4/4 floor plan until it was upgraded by his son Joseph. Barn back there, split rail fence. Another plaque. All right, so you don't enter there. Yeah, just kind of a standard porch right there. Nothing too fancy. Let's see what this says. Take a look at this chimney. And duplex back here. I'm wondering if that's the kitchen. Anyway, I'll find out. Oh, so this is going to talk about the barn. I guess we'll find out about the barn before I go in. Slaves loading hogsheads onto a cart. And this building is a reproduction of a 19th century barn from the Isle of Wight, Virginia, down in the Tidewater area. But yeah, let me go inside the house, and cedars all around. And I'm surprised there are no pecan trees. Whenever I come to Petersburg or this part of the state, there are pecan trees everywhere. Back pretty similar to the front. Cedar tiles on the top. First thing you'll see, it looks like marble, but it's actually wallpaper. Yeah, wallpaper cornice up there. Kind of a faux, kind of cedar type, I don't know, door. Okay, so first room over here, looks like a parlor maybe, playing games. Spittoon down there. And what is that? Old Newport Times? Is that what it says? New York Times. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a Confederate coat right there. Officer's coat. I guess McGowan's coat. Yep, dominoes and cards. Games of the day. Dorchester, Massachusetts, breakfast cocoa. Yeah, guys, wanted to zoom in on these objects, and a real small writing desk. And it looks like this thing might be portable. Throw it on the back of a wagon. Closer look at McGowan's frock coat. And nicer writing desk right here. And it looks like this might be mahogany. And a marble top pier table, and this thing's mahogany. Probably made in Baltimore. There's a pretty old trunk right here. McGowan sash and gloves on top of this giant mess chest. And I don't know if you can see the initials inscribed on the front, JHSMG. And this is identical to the mess chest of the 55th Pennsylvania Infantry that's on display at Gettysburg. Pennsylvania Dutch settee with some polychrome flowers painted on there. And I don't know if somebody did some sleeping on here. All right, so that's it for McGowan's headquarters. You see a little transom window up there. Back in the days, those would come down, let air blow in, also provided light into the hallway. Have a little cross breeze going through to that one. And what room is this? All right, guys, we've entered the sitting room, and this is obviously where they did the dining. The room is set up to look as it would have in the spring of 1864. That's when the Boisseaus moved out, and they let McGowan move in to set up his headquarters. And I'm just gonna pan around, take a look at the furniture. Again, nothing's original, but they're all authentic period antiques, and so some pretty good stuff to look at. French Empire chair. The style was popular. It's based on Roman and Greek furniture that had been recently discovered. Turned armchair back here. And these spindles, that was a southern characteristic. They hung up a picture of the recently deceased Jeb Stuart. He had just died at the Battle of Yellow Tavern. Nice tea set on this buffet cabinet. Mirror here up on the mantle, again in the Empire style. All right, that's it for the sitting room, and let's go upstairs. Carpeted staircase. And check out, I'm sure, bedroom over here. We're in the Boisseau bedchamber, and this is most likely where McGowan would have slept. I wanted to tell you guys that Joseph and Anne had 3 children, 2 girls and a boy, which is why they upgraded the house, but all of which died by the age of 10. Serious canopy bed right here, almost like crawling into a tent. Looks like this is where Joseph would have done his shaving, in front of the window light. And around the corner is a stairway that led up to a 2-room attic. Yeah, lots of that French Empire style furniture. Don't see many of these. Similar to a parlor dome, I guess, but you hang it on the wall.
Sadly, all 3 Boisseaus.
Okay, a couple more one more bedroom and Lieutenant Caldwell's office. He's got a tiny little stove right there, but yeah, I guess you don't need much. South Carolina.
Lieutenant James Fitzjames Caldwell.
Oh, you can step in here. That's kind of cool.
Attended South Carolina College, studied law in Charleston, and was admitted to the bar in January 1859. He joined the 1st South Carolina Infantry in April 1862 at the age of 24. In late 1862, his superior officer, Samuel McGowan, began urging Caldwell to write a history of their brigade. In November 1864, Caldwell was appointed General McGowan's aide-de-camp. This left the lieutenant no excuse for not writing the brigade history. McGowan relieved Caldwell of the routine duties expected of a staff officer and provided him all needed assistance. Caldwell had access to the brigade's official reports and correspondence, as well as some records of the division to which the brigade was attached. He often spoke with various regimental officers to obtain additional information.
And then finally we've got, let's see, this is the officers' sleeping quarters, and they've got them packed in here. This would have been a bustling room, obviously. And altogether 4 beds. Probably a lot of snoring going on in here. 5 beds, I guess, if you count the one on the ground. Pretty nice trunk.
To tell you a little bit about McGowan, born down in Lawrence County, South Carolina, 1819, attended private schools and then South Carolina College. Saw action in the Mexican-American War. During the Civil War, saw plenty of action, wounded during the Battle of Second Manassas. During the Battle of Fredericksburg, when General Maxcy Gregg was mortally wounded, he took over his brigade. Wounded again at Battle of Chancellorsville, he was out for about a year. They returned for the Overland Campaign. And at the Battle of Spotsylvania Courthouse, he was near the apex of the Mule Shoal salient. He and his 1,300 men battled thousands of Yankees for 18 hours. Then just after the war, 1865, he was elected to the House of Representatives, but radical Republicans wouldn't let him take the seat. And then fast forward to 1879, where he was elected Associate Justice of the South Carolina Supreme Court, and he held that office until 1894 when he retired.
Yeah, it looks like you have to go outside to get to the basement. All right, feels better out here. I think it's going to be a little museum down here. Probably talking about the battle. Oh, here we go. Yeah, history of the Brigade of South Carolina, McGowan's Brigade. Pretty cool. What did they do? Who came here? Confederate soldiers were commanded by Brigadier General Samuel McGowan, and about a dozen men stayed here, it says. Tudor Hall, 1860, when it was a thriving farm plantation. And check out the contrast, 1864 into 1865. All the trees are gone. And yeah, campsite, you see all the tents. Are these graves right here? These little gray things, I don't know if they're coming. Yeah, I think you can see them. Yeah, much different story. Military headquarters. The Boisseaus owned the house up until 1869, and surprise, surprise, some New Yorkers came down and bought it. I don't know if you would pronounce that Juro, probably Juro. They owned it for 3 generations. Here it is, 1920s. Looks like a nice couple. And it was restored in 1995. Quite an undertaking, it looks like. Here's some of the nearby earthworks. Pretty much a prelude to World War I. Desolate landscape. African-American laborers who obviously were freed after the war, but the South was in ruin, not much opportunity. Okay, so it looks like it was originally 100 acres. And yeah, just a federal style building. William added 890 acres, 51 slaves to the holdings. The tract at Tudor Hall was increased to 594 acres. Kind of confused about that. And looks like it filling some hogsheads with tobacco. Southern economy collapsed. Farmers had to advertise in northern newspapers. And yeah, 1869 is when the Juros out of New York purchased the property. Like I say, William's son Joseph took over, and instead of tobacco, he grew wheat, oats. Looks like sold things and marketed into Petersburg. When a local road, the Boynton Plank Road, was built, which is today is Route 1. Big mansion down here, and this is what the one percenters lived in, the giant plantation owners down in the south lived in. And just your average wealthy family, like I say, lived in more of a modest middling sized plantation. And then your average just yeoman, just typical farmer, just kind of lived in this cabin right here. Holy cow, check out this spider. Okay, so anyway, labor, there were 4 million slaves in the South. Most were owned by a small number of planters in the Deep South who controlled between 20 and 200 people. Large farms, similar to Tudor Hall, typically had between 5 and 20 slaves. And vast majority of white Southerners owned no slaves, still hope to do so. Slaves relieved owners from physical labor, enabled them to expand production. And here's the original house going back to 1812. Just a 3-bay building, 2 external chimneys. Over here, looks like they added a bay to the right-hand side, a porch, some fan lights, internal chimney on the left. So I'm not sure exactly what they did, but yeah, this is what it looked like. 1850s, once the plantation had taken off, when Joseph upgraded it, and he added these Greek revival details. Pretty cool museum. Learned a little bit more about the house. So let me walk over and take a look at the barn first. And I think I'll circle my way around. And it's starting to drizzle again. Tool shed over here. Good collection of tools back here. What is that? Okay, for aerating the ground, I guess. Pretty crude broom. Okay, so you can sharpen your axe. Oh, all right, so what, do they have sheep around here? Is there something back here? Oh, yeah, okay. We have sheep. I feel like I'm back in Scotland. This guy's looking back at me. All right. Looks like he's got no ears. Oh, he kind of doesn't. Oh, he's got some horns back there. These guys are chomping away. Okay, that was pretty cool. All right, so on to what I think is that kitchen over there. Nothing on this, just a shed. Yeah, all right, so kitchen and servants' hall. Enslaved individual right here smoking a pipe. And this is a drawing by Civil War correspondent Edwin Forbes. So one slave family lived upstairs, and I would imagine the cook and her family. Okay, it's capped off. So I'm gonna stick my head up there, gourd right there. They're probably gonna have a banjo. So this is the kitchen. I guess the main part of the kitchen, I should say. There's your toaster right there. Put the bread in there and you spin it around once the one side's done. And you feel like that's a fire hazard with all that wood so close to the
Outbuildings like this provided housing for domestic slaves and served as the plantation kitchen. The wooden
sieve, a couple sieves.
windows and finished interior reflect a higher standard of construction than usually found in the current
Churn the butter. Old pork barrel down there. Iron pot. Pie cabinet. Like I say, you always have interesting designs with these perforations. And that's not blue willow, but it's pretty nice. Actually, that's very similar design, but anyway, pretty nice plates though.
A common feature throughout the South made it possible to remove the heat, odors, and commotion associated with cooking outside of the main house. Like many affluent families, the Boisseaus maintained a well-equipped kitchen capable of producing
And there's a
fine
spittoon back there.
William Boissau's inventory recorded such as
Another kind of little pork barrel down here.
and copper pudding molds. Virtually all of the items kept in the kitchen, however, were purely functional. The cook used the food safe beside the fireplace to protect edibles from insects and other vermin. Work tables, like the two here, were simple in design and large enough for cooking and baking. The crockery and glassware throughout the room provided storage. The Boisseaus probably kept table linens, silverware, fine china, and glassware in the main house for use and display.
What is this? Okay, let's see what's on the other side of the duplex. And real quick, I'm gonna run out. I know they've got a ton of walking trails. Big old pine. I'm just gonna see what this says real quick. And yeah, like I say, I'm just gonna stick to the plantation home. Oh, the family cemetery. So the grave of Martha Boisseau Jones was buried here, but she's been reinterred over at the Blandford Cemetery in Petersburg. She was only 21 years old when she died. I've got a video on the Blandford Cemetery. It's one of my earlier videos, so be forewarned if you watch it. But her husband, Robert Jones, he later married her sister, Anne Boisseau. Okay. You even imagine a plot this big that more than just one person was buried here. The slaves would have had a separate cemetery. But all right, this is where the Boisseau Cemetery was. Okay, let's see what's on the right side of this thing. Yeah, you can tell. Oh yeah, well this is a reconstruction. I'll say that the chimney's new, newer. And over here, a lot of times the other half of these things is where they do like the sewing, and there's probably, yep, yeah, I knew it.
The slaves who toiled in this half of the building worked in and around the big house. Typically, directly on the
So
top
yeah,
right
just a
of
small
the
hearth right there.
They acted as butlers, housemaids, coachmen, gardeners, and yard boys. Like the cook, domestic servants held higher status within the plantation community. They ate. All of this came at a price, however. Unlike field slaves who worked until dusk, house slaves were always at the beck and call of the planter and his family. Blank space, frequently called the servants'
And
hall.
you see how they didn't have nails,
Slaves labored here
how they
until
jointed
called
these
by
things
the
together.
planter for tools and smaller items
Pretty big
like
hoe down there.
Planters occasionally supplied their slaves with various sorts of hand-me-downs. Some slaves earned money selling chickens and vegetables, working longer hours, or completing odd jobs for the planter.
You know, different linens and flax. And you guys know the old English song, Pop Goes the Weasel? And the story goes, they used to have these things rigged when they would spin like 100 times, it would make a pop sound. So pop goes the weasel. Some cordage over here. All right. Yeah, cook something here. You would probably cook, and you would also have a little cauldron where you could dye clothes. Yeah, they've got that locked up. Crepe myrtle. Okay, so we have the well over here. Show you the broadside of it, and yeah, surprised no windows at all. There's a bale of hay over there. But let's see what this says. A sketch of a typical garden from the 1800s. And the garden here in the plantation was about the size of a football field. It produced enough to feed 10 to 15 people, and it was usually just managed by one person. Well, it says it was managed by the woman of the household, but then the enslaved provided the labor. So, yeah, more than one person. Yeah, I guess the two together are about the size of a football field. And let me walk over and take a look at these outbuildings. While I head over to take a look at the rest of the buildings, I'll tell you about my socials. You can find me on Instagram. And I usually just put up pictures of the sites I've been to. And it's a good idea if you kind of want to find out where I'm at in real time. I put stuff up on Facebook occasionally. I need to. My plan is to be more active on social media. And you can also find me on Patreon if you want to help me get out to more of these places. And I'm willing to bet that is the tobacco barn. And maybe had horses back there, like I say, corn crib it looks like. In 1860, Dinwiddie County farmers cured 4 million tons of tobacco in barns like the one we're about to look at. Wow. And cedar shingles on this thing. And it was about a 4-week process to cure the tobacco, dry it out. That's where it gets its flavor. See if my nose is kind of stopped up. I can smell it a little bit. And there, yeah, a little fire pit right there. Yeah, okay, yeah, hanging from those sticks, and there's more back there a little higher up. And usually you've got that dovetail design here, holding the logs together. And I don't think I've seen one like this, at least in this area, put together like this. All right, Keep on moving. And if you want to visit the actual battlefield, you head back that way. So this is the Tudor Hall Field Quarter. So this is where the enslaved stayed. And the two cabins on the left are slave quarters. The first cabin has an exhibit on the inside, and the second one is supposed to be a more realistic, I guess, depiction of the slave quarter. Clapboard house, and there's your bell. Yeah, so the bell right there signaled when to wake up, when to eat, when to begin work, when to get off work. It says Independence City, 1776, so guess made in Philadelphia. So, all right, so a little exhibit in here. And a film. Yeah, and it really was time for slavery to go. You see around the world when it ended. All through South America, it looks like down there. And yeah, all that was left was Puerto Rico, Cuba, and then Brazil, 1888. And you'll see that most of the slaves that came to the Western Hemisphere came from the Ivory and Gold Coast in Angola. And yeah, the transatlantic slave trade ended 1808. That's why there was such a big drop-off. Well, at least we weren't as bad as Brazil. Egyptian slaves harvesting papyrus reeds. This painting is called A Scene on the African Coast by Augusta Bayard. This one's called A Slave Auction in Virginia by artist's last name is Cranstone. The famous Manifest Destiny painting, American Progress by George Crawford. And the Angel of Liberty headed west, pushing out the Indians, the buffalo, the wildlife. And here come the colonizers and the railroad and industry. And I think this was originally supposed to be a positive thing, that they were bringing civilization, they were taming the land, bringing light into the darkness, but yeah, it doesn't age very well. Election of 1860, obviously won by Abraham Lincoln. And a lot of people think that Lincoln, the Republicans won because the Democrats had split the ticket. But really, if you add up the electoral votes of the Democrats, Abraham Lincoln still had more. Timeline of slavery in America. 1619, when the first 20 and odd, they called them, arrived at Jamestown. Massachusetts, the first English colony to legalize slavery. But yeah, this is when it became official. Virginia legalizes slavery, 1662. And the Quakers were egalitarian. They were very much opposed to slavery. William Lloyd Garrison, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Beecher Stowe, of course, we're at Uncle Tom's Cabin. And yeah, fictional tale. A lot of Northerners thought it was a true story, but yeah, kind of a Hollywood over-dramatized tale. Simon Legree whipping and killing the slaves.
It educates, refines, and moralizes the masses of colored people in the South. We teach them Christianity, elevating them.
All right, so watch the little documentary in the exhibit. And this is supposed to be a more realistic depiction of a enslaved cabin. And this little chicken coop back here. And I'm sure they would have had, yeah, probably your garden right here. So this might be chained up. I don't think you can probably go in there. It looks like a hole kind of in the roof. Yeah, it's locked up. Small window. Chimney made of stick and mud. Here are the insects. And there's a well over here. I guess real quick, I'll just look at that barn. I think that's going to be it. Yeah, just an old shed. Stored obviously tools, farm equipment. The sign said mules would stay here a lot of times during the winter. Okay, yeah. Okay. A few hose over here. Some equipment for the horses or the mules. It's gonna wrap it up for Tudor Hall Plantation. Like I say, great place to check out, and there's a whole lot more to see. I'll be back down here to check out the battlefield, but I'm gonna get out of here. As always, guys, like and subscribe. See you on the next one.